Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. Gregory, that looks awesome. I think I speak for everyone when I say we cannot wait for all the new innovations in 4.3. There are some amazing things. I assume that everyone can see my screen because nobody is chirping at me. So Webby is the king of reporting, right? That's undisputed. Everybody knows that. But more and more people are using it as a dashboarding tool. Well, with the infusion of Need for Viz, as Gregory was pointing out, you can just do some absolutely amazing things. So we're going to take you into a couple dashboards, show you some really cool things. And then hopefully, if we have the time, we're going to build something together. Okay. So hopefully our native French speakers will appreciate this dashboard. But this is a dashboard that we kind of converted for demo purposes, but it sits at a mine and it's live and it runs in presentation mode and it's constantly updating. We have a number of Need for Viz components here. This being my favorite, it's an interactive Drillin chart. So if we want to look and see more details about a particular day, we can just drill in. And then if we want to see the details about a particular time, data and stats down to the hour, down to the minute. So then we just press back, and we're right at our start. If we want to change the measure that sits in here, we have a nice little radio button that we're able to use. And as you notice, the data changed. We have an awesome multi-graph, which allows us to come in and choose a couple different ways we want to see our data. Sort of a show me this chart versus the other chart trick that we often do in Webby dashboards. They can do it with a simple click of a button here, which is great. And we have a nice interactive Sankey with a variable pi. All good stuff. Now on our other dashboard, we have a really nice timeline here. You can interact with it. You can select a specific date. It's really nice. We have the ability to drill in. We simply select an equipment. That chart goes away, and now we are back into one of those really cool drill through components. Go back. We use a reset button, so we don't have to use our input controls, and we're right back to where we started. We have this awesome coal truck. It's a custom SVG that we were able to upload right into a Webby component in Webby itself. So this is a little coal stack, and if you want to take certain a field from a dimension away, you just click and it goes away. We also have a little Excel in Webby. It's great. It's got a scroll. You can select a number of page, go all the way to the end, go back to the beginning. You can filter right in. You can clear it. So it really gives that best of both worlds of dashboarding and getting down to our details. And this is really cool. So what I just did there was I clicked into a single date in my timeline, and what popped up was a chart. There was an Excel and Webby table, and with a pop-up in the back. So I don't know about all of you, but I really missed pop-up charts in Excelsius. And as cool as it is to be able to code those in the Mira, the time that it takes to do that is sort of cumbersome. But here, it's just a simple click of a button, and we press X, and it clears it out, and it also clears the element link. And I'll actually show you how easy that is to put in here. So once we click, go to design mode. Sorry about that, everyone. All right, I'm going to format my custom element just like we format our regular elements. And it's right here called mode. Yep.
You also have a question, and it is, what are you using to deliver the data real time?
We are using it's a SQL Server database and custom ETL. And we were using in 4.3 mode, the non-interactive one. We just use presentation mode to constantly turn over the report. And when we use the interactive mode, we use classic Webby. And so you don't want to constantly turn over the report every 30 seconds. But you can come in here and you can edit the width of your modal screen. You can edit the color of your background close button, and say you don't want that, you check it off, it will go away, but we're going to keep it. You press OK. And it really is as easy as that. And notice our modal got a little bit smaller because I asked for it to be smaller, and our background color changed, which is very, very cool. And here's one of our classic combo box drop downs that we can find in Need for Viz. So we don't have to go over to our input controls. And you notice whenever we clicked on one single crew, that it turned over our crew call chart into a nice little heat map that gives us an idea of where the crew was moving on the mine seam. So we have another dashboard that I'd like to show here. This is the dashboard that we're using to track inventory. And this is very cool because it combines web intelligence, a lot of native really cool components with your Need for Viz components. And it uses that pop-up concept that I was talking about, but it kind of takes it to another step and uses the power of Need for Viz in Webby combined. And so I'll show you this dashboard, and then what we'll do is I'll show you how the pop-up dashboard works, and we'll try to build it together if we have time. And if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. It's not a problem. Okay, so this is where we're tracking our inventory for our fair share program. And also, I want to point out before I get started on this, this was developed in partnership with a rock star that's actually on the line, Ken Wong. So I wanted to give proper accolades. He is a mad scientist when it comes to Webby, and we've been able to use Need for Viz and Webby to just create some really incredible things. Okay, so what we have here is, again, one of my favorite features of Need for Viz is that we have a combo box. And we actually have the ability to drill into a single dimension right here. This is what we're calling drug name number 2 in order to protect the innocent. And if you'll notice, our Excel and Webby changed. This little allocations distribution changed right over here. And of course, this went away because there's nothing to show, and we see that our data changed over there. And if we go to drug number 3, same thing happened. We have some changes, but we go here to oncology, which is combining both of those, and we see we get that combined data. So it's a really, really powerful thing to put into your dashboard. Up at the top, we have some basic Webby tiles that we're using as KPI tiles. We have this awesome little hover over that gives you a little bit more information next to a KPI. So if you notice, as soon as we go over the KPI, we get a little HTML pop-up. And then we put a little gauge here right inside a tile to let you know when, or let the user know when they risk going over allotment. And because we're tracking the inventory for the distribution of these drugs by the plant, we've separated out here in streams, plant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And because plant 5 is under construction, we have put a cute little under construction picture. Down here, we have this awesome starburst or sunburst from Need for Viz. So if we wanted to drill into plant 3 right here, we drill in there and we notice that our sectors have changed. If we only want to see starburst, or if we only want to see pharmacy, then we can go see the different pharmacies. And if we want to back out, we just simply click the center until we're back to the start.
Alan, we have a quick question, and it is,
Sure.
how do you display the dashboard with the least amount of Webby noise around it? Noise in quotes.
Yes, that's a great question. So Need for Viz has come up with a beautiful way to take care of that. So they have this component that is it's one of their navigation components, and you just simply click it, and it takes your entire report into big screen. Now, the reason that I don't have it over on this one that I'm showing everyone is because, unfortunately, we are in the midst of an upgrade. The Need for Viz upgrade is it takes about 10 minutes to patch your Need for Viz, but we have some business objects work that we're doing. So in this version, I don't have that little X, but the latest version, you can simply press X and boom, you don't even have this Webby noise to deal with. So it's awesome. I even use it in reports that don't necessarily have a lot of Need for Viz components. It's just a nice to have. I appreciate that question because I forgot to highlight that. So good stuff.
And for clarification, they said all the tools would go away.
By tools, yeah, you mean your ribbons and the top and the left and top?
Yes.
Yes, they all go away. You essentially just get the screen for your dashboard, which when you're in presentation mode really works. It really works great. And I can, while I'm presenting this, bring up another example where we're using presentation mode and it looks great. On a reading mode. So it really looks nice when you're using when you're in reading mode, and you can set your. I like to use Ledger and Tabloid on landscape, and shout out to Guru Ken Wong, who pointed that out to me, that it's essentially like the perfect dashboarding screen when you're able to use that button. So it looks really nice. It really, I mean, we've had people be like, what program is this? And this is an awesome little Need for Viz component where you can type right into your dashboard and filter it. But yeah, that's a really cool question. All right. Anywho, so I'll move on. So you'll notice we have an element link for each one of these plants because we're going to want to drill into them. Because while these graphics are great and they give the user a nice idea, right? How many days inventory on hand? We have 9. We have a nice little legend that gives you the actual percentage within the legend, and you can hover in the gauge. But if you click on plant here, we're going to pop up, and we're on the same screen, a new dashboard, right? And if you'll notice, all of this at the top is filtered to your plant. You have a nice little title that tells you where you're at, right? And if you'll notice over here, the Excel spreadsheet, the Webby in Excel is now filtered to the plant that you have selected, and same with our sunburst here. And so again, we have one of these great timelines where we can interact 1 month, 3 months, year to date, all. We can select a custom starting point to, I don't know, my mama's birthday, that works. So it's really nice. It makes for a lot better experience for the user. And in order to get, oh, and this this drop down will also work with the pop-up dashboard. So we click that, and it has nothing to do with these guys, so they go away. Go back to our oncology program. And our pop-up dashboard comes back. And when we want it to go away, we follow the directions we put up here, select the X, and boom. Right, plant 3. Boom. It's pretty slick. And press the X, and you're back. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I don't see any questions at this time.
Cool.
Oh, wait, as I say that, one pops up. How much time is involved in creating the inventory Webby dashboard?
Honestly, not much time at all. I think most of the time was kind of more tedious nonsense. Everything else was relatively easy. I'd say this one took less than a week, and most of that time was deciding how everyone wanted it to look and what data points to use where. But the actual development, if you had all your data and everything was completely perfect and you had a design plan what you wanted to do, there's no excuse for this to take longer than a day. And I mean that with all sincerity. It's all very easy stuff.
Awesome. And follow up to that is how many queries and variables? And they clarified by saying a percentage of Webby versus need for Viz.
So there's a decent amount of variables, not many, but it's mostly for getting the Webby components to work in data and things of that nature. There wasn't a lot that we had to do to get the need for Viz components to work. There's just one reference cell that we had to create in order to get the experience that we wanted.
Perfect. That's all the questions at this time, but I'll let you know if I see any more come through.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to try to attempt to explain how the pop-up dashboard works. Okay, so first of all, we need to create a reference cell, right? And we're going to use this formula. And reference cells always need to be on a single row. Otherwise, as the row changes, let's say you have 10 rows and it was on, you referenced row 8, and then you somehow filter the data, well, that row 8 is no longer, it doesn't have referential integrity anymore. So you have to keep it down to one row. So what we do is we count how many plants we have. If there's one more plant counted, then we say all, otherwise give me max of the plants, right? And then what we have to do is we have to assign that as a reference cell. We just go assign reference and name it. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to create a variable, which I have done before we started in case we were on a time crunch. And it's very simple. If your plant, your distribution center, is equal to the reference cell that you created, then yes, else no, right? When it's on all, it will never be equal, right? When you select one of these, right, then it will turn into an actual plant name. So then your filter can be equal. You then go over here to your input controls and we create your plant filter and we set it to Y and we set the dependencies to where they need to be, which is everything that's going to be on our pop-up. Okay. Now I know I'm going fast, so if you have a question or a concern or an aggravation, just let me know. Now next is
Just to clarify, this is BI 4.2, correct?
Yes, this is BI 4.2 SP8. And your reference, that was a 4.2 SP8 thing.
Thank you.
It's my favorite. It's the best. Okay, so this is actually a chart, our backgrounds. So what we do is we just create a chart with the dummy value. We go to format the chart, background, set it on white 100, right? And then we go to our area display, and we make sure nothing is checked. We don't want any data displaying, and we don't want any access to be visible. We want just to serve as a background, right? And then what we need to do is we need to go here, and we're going to set this element link, or we're going to make this an element link, and we're going to put it on our reference cell so it can read it correctly. And we also want to be able to use the plant, pass the plant name to these two good friends down here. Say finish. So now we click plant 1. And voila, we have components on our pop-up. Now you ask, well, why did they show up? Well, it's because we put a hide when on all these good little friends here. So the formula is when your reference cell equals all, we're going to go ahead and hide it, right? Because we don't want to see it when you haven't drilled into one of your plants. And so I'm going to actually do that same thing right here. Now, probably wondering, well, how do I make it go away? Well, that is our next quick lesson. So we're going to bring an empty dimension in here and build a quick need for viz component. When I say empty dimension, I use an X. Some people use a question mark. Some people use a space, whatever. It's just an empty, dimension. We go over here to turn into. We're going to find our need for viz navigation. Going to wait for my server to understand that I'm asking it to do anything. This is just this is the environment I'm in. This has nothing to do with need for viz. I'm taking us into a live production environment. This is a real dashboard. It's just been animized for obvious reasons. So we're going to go to our input control reset button.
And while you do that, you do have a question. It's, are you using new viz components?
What do you mean?
Yeah, we might need a little clarification on that. Could you explain what you mean by new viz in the Q&A?
I wonder if he's thinking that need for viz components are you using?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's the question, this little guy that I'm building right here, they are a need for viz component. Right. And so you know that because you're in format custom element. So once we go and we make that custom element to reset the input control so we can clear all this good new fun, we then go to extended parameters and we go to controls, and we need to then list the input controls that we want it to not reset. Luckily, I had those handy dandy. Can also go ahead and select a color. I'll do that, right? And you can also, what I did to make it seem like it was sort of connected, all one component, was I went to format custom element here, and I should have done this before, seeing as I'm already way over time.
It's all right. You started late, so you can have a couple extra minutes.
I appreciate that. basically you just make this background the same color as you made your button here. But so yeah, we don't need to necessarily do that. So once you click reset here, theoretically, it should go away. So we have drilled properly. It is now away. Now let's drill back into it. And for each one of these plants, it all works the same thing, because you can only use one of these drills at a time, right? If you think about it, because you're clicking, and the idea is this goes over top of your dashboard, and then you got to click it to reset it. So then once you come back and you want to drill into another plant, you can only drill into that single plant. So each one of these streams can affect this single reference cell. All right, so let's turn this real quick into a need for viz component. And then I promise I will be done. And if anybody has questions while I'm doing this, go ahead. So I want to turn this into one of those really cool timeline charts that allow the user to kind of go in, out, zoom to a year, 3 months, what have you. It just makes for a much better user experience, obviously, than what the normal Webby experience is. And obviously, you guys are seeing the perils of doing this the way I do it, which is live. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go 3 levels here. I'm going to follow the directions. We're going to start with year, month, and then day. I'm going to edit the formula. I'm going to simply make a year formula. Boom, year over calendar day. Say okay. And come over here. I'm going to do a month number of year, because we're going to be drilled into that year's month number. Think about year, month, and day as a hierarchy. And then we are going to finally create a day number of month, because then we drilled into the day of that particular month, right? We say okay. And voila, it's done, right? And what I would do is then I would come over here. I think I have most everything aligned to this guy. It didn't align. This one. There you go. Now your pop-up is over top your dashboard. And if you simply want to get out, you clear it pressing that button that we would normally place right on top of there. Whew. Okay,